Welcome to Big Blend Radio with your hosts, Lisa and Nancy, editors of BigBlendMagazine.com.
Hey, everybody, welcome to Big Blend Radio's Toast to the Art Show. And of course, you know what? It is that time of the month, the third Saturday, that we get to chat with Victoria Chick. Victoria is a contemporary figurative artist and early 19th and 20th century print collector based out of Silver City in Southwest New Mexico. She's also the founder and, spearhead behind this amazing new project known as the Southwest Regional Museum of Art and Art Center. It's a work in progress. There's not actually a building where you can go to yet, but man, is she getting this all working with all of her teammates to make this happen. So we always like to check in on her with her on that. But go to her website, victoriachick.com. And we have quite a fascinating conversation coming up today about a wedding portrait, the Arnolfini wedding portrait. You know how I can't pronounce anything. So welcome back, Victoria. I can pronounce your name, Victoria. How are you?
I'm great. And you did a very good job on Arnolfini, I think.
Arnolfini. Yeah. I almost left the L out there and I was like, no, we like the L's. I'm Elisa. I like my L's. But this painting, it's kind of crazy. Like this is one of those that I think goes in the books of everyone's going to argue about it.
Well,
with the symbolism of it.
I think people have been fascinated with it since it was done. Gosh, it's been close to 600 years ago. But they do argue about it. You're right. What it means, and it's such a strange painting. And people try to figure out what the symbolism is. And there's plenty of symbolism in the painting. It was painted by Jan van Eyck, who was a great painter of the high Renaissance in the Northern Renaissance, and that would be in we talked about the Dutch painters. It would be the 1400s that this was painted, so 15th century. And they weren't using oil paint either. He was using oil paint. Although he was one of the people that initiated using oil paint. But this particular painting, he was using egg tempera. And that's really one of the reasons this painting has lasted so long and it stayed in really good shape, because it was not on canvas, it was on a solid board. And the egg yolk in egg tempera is what binds all the pigment together. And it is really strong. You probably, if you ever tried to wash your dishes in the morning after waiting too long, you know how strong it can be, and it stays glossy, which is really good. So he had a great technique, and he produced a painting that's lasted a long time, and people are still fascinated with it.
This painting, and I want to go to the tempera, but I want people to know that you can go to blendradioandtv.com and see Victoria's article and the painting that we're talking about, and also just Google Arnolfini wedding portrait, and you'll find it. But I want to go back to the egg tempera, because I know we interviewed an artist, I'm going to say I don't even know if we were doing radio, years ago, and she was doing egg tempera, and I'm going, wow, you don't see that very often in a modern use of today's art. But when with this method, what seals it? Because when you think about leaving an egg out, like egg yolk, that could get a little stinky. I'm just saying. But so is there something that de-stinkifies and seals it?
Well, maybe not actually de-stinkifies. However, at the time they were. This was right before oil paint. Oil paint came in, and Jan van Eyck was one of the leaders in that. I guess the first people to really. Sometimes he's credited with inventing it. So, but there are people that don't think that's great either. So there's always any topic. There's always someone willing to take a different approach. So anyway, anyway, egg tempera, and then the oil painting. Oil painting allowed glazes to be put over
Hmm.
of more solid oil paint that made them stay glossy looking.
Mhm.
It created, you might have a little bit of color in it, so you could put shadows in, you could have veils of color on top, one on top of each other, as long as you let them dry between applications. So I think at some point that somebody might have put a glaze over the Arnolfini wedding portrait.
Just
You
to
know,
keep it.
I
Oh,
have
yeah.
not read about it officially. Yeah, so I don't know, but I know that it has not cracked in all these years.
Wow.
The surface of, I mean, you can look at oil paintings that are 100 years old, 200 years old, maybe somebody who's been not a very good oil painter, more recently than that, and you see that they're usually painted on canvas, so the surface that the paint is being applied to is flexible, and a lot of times that paint film will develop really bad cracks, or it would chip off, or we can get stuff that's sort of like alligator cracks in it. There's a lot of things that can destroy a piece of artwork.
Hmm.
But
I mean,
you
this
mentioned
is go.
about this being an older kind of technique, and then one of the reasons that artists don't use it very much anymore, there are some that specialize in it, is that it's very slow and tedious work. They usually use a small brush. You can only mix so much egg yolk with so much pigment at a time, because you know how egg starts to coagulate, especially
Mhm.
milk starts to coagulate. So they have to, they use a lot of eggs to finish the painting, but they probably won't work more than an hour at a time with one egg and a little bit of water.
Mm.
To
Mm.
But there's a limit to how much water you can put in before the binding thing of the egg, that aspect of it starts to break down and doesn't work anymore.
Wow.
So it's a tedious process, and I think that's really the main reason why it's not used very much. Is
Hmm.
there are so many other kinds of paint now that are easier and faster.
Right. Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I think is so impressive about this painting too. I mean, you're talking about how tedious this part of doing the painting,
Yeah.
uh, Van Eyck, is it Van Eyck? Am I going to get it?
Yes.
Eyck, Van Eyck. Yeah.
Eyck.
Jan Van Eyck, was here, right? It's very interesting about, I mean, this is over 600 years ago. It's amazing. And then, he's that tedious, but at the same time, he's like, well, if I'm going to go into all that tedious work, I'm going all in. I'm going to put all these mysterious little symbolical things
Things
inside
in
this
it.
painting. So every time you look at it, you're going to see something different. You're going to see
Yep.
something like, what does this mean? And, as we always talk about on this show, that, art is such a sign of the times and tells the history of the times.
Right.
And I think in your article, you really kind of break that down, like, this is what this is why that, because of that's what it was in that period. But the painting is supposed to be the people, you say in your article, the people pictured are Giovanni Arnolfini and Giovanni Sanami.
Yes.
But then later you go, maybe not. Like what?
Well, for years, I mean, for decades, for centuries, that was who the painting was, as far as anyone is concerned.
Mm.
They were an Italian couple who were living in the Flanders area, so that's why they got Van Eyck to paint the portrait. Um, there was a lot of commercial travel between Italy and the Low Countries. So that's why they were there. And in 1997, I believe, some art historian started digging, and he looked up these people's names in because they kept reasonably good records for the time, and he found that the time where they were supposed to get married did not on the paperwork he found did not correspond to the date that was given for the painting. So it was like 1447, I think. So, and that was 6 years after Van Eyck was dead. So that didn't compute.
Wow.
So, and that was pretty startling. That was one of those little things that gets written up in art journals because this is a real discovery. And so then they tried to figure, well, if the dates can't be reconciled, who are those people? And it's been considered as Arnolfini for so long. I guess they decided to go with that, and they looked him up more deeply, and they found that before he married the woman pictured in the painting, he had a wife before that, and she had died. So they looked her up, and they thought, well, it wasn't her, but they decided that the whole thing could not have happened. Even though it might be him, it might not, and it might be a relative. So then they did some more digging, and they found out that he had a cousin that lived in the same area at the same time as Van Eyck was painting. And they thought maybe they just they just made drew some conclusions from the last name, and they missed the first name. So it could have been his cousin, and Van Eyck, of course, did do the painting because he signed it. So we know that, and we know that we know what the date was right. So they had to look for somebody else who it might be, since the people that they thought it always had been, they couldn't have been there at the time because Van Eyck was dead. So anyway, it's interesting, and these are kind of like curiosities, and art historians get really pumped up about finding things out. And because it is kind of almost like a detective story to try and go back and put things together and find out correct assumptions, maybe, and find out what the truth is about a work of art.
Well, that's funny because it's kind of like this, it's a mystery. It's an art history mystery,
Yes, it is. Yep.
It's interesting because I'm looking down at the left corner, and I'm looking at what I think is a pair of sandals, shoes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
those are probably they carved wooden clogs.
Okay, so he's got shoes on, so I'm looking at her and thinking she's barefoot. And then she looks a little bit with child, so I would call this barefoot and pregnant if I was going to name them.
Well, people have jumped to that conclusion. Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny. It's a odd. It's like, why are the shoes?
A lot of this, I think there's a lot of religious reference. Although notice, if they're getting married in that room, that's not a church. That's not a church, which is where we might expect the person to get married,
right,
or a registration office or something like that. Not in a bedroom. So, what you have, what's important to note, I think, on it is that families at the time, marriages were almost arranged because parents would try and find suitable spouse material for their children, and generally, of course, these were a wealthy class of people, and it's likely that parental approval or parental arranging was made based on, because this arrangement might be good for business, or it might be good socially, because you were marrying somebody who wasn't just, attractive to you. In fact, they might have not have been attractive to each other, but they're making a vow, they're making a pledge, apparently, in this picture. Now, the Catholic Church did not get involved in marriage until the Counter-Reformation in the 17th century. So, and that was because of Martin Luther, basically, and because they were trying to stop the Protestant movement. So. Right. It was a very interesting time. So at the time these people are getting married in this picture, that's like 200 years before the Catholic Church even performed wedding ceremonies. So but yet the picture tells us that they had an ethic based on belief in God at that time. And you can tell that by all the little icons in there, all the little symbols in there. The dog, for instance.
I like the dog.
It's a symbol of faithfulness. Yeah. So that one, and then on one of the posts, you have to look really carefully. One of the posts that's next to the bed, way in the back, there's a carving of Saint Margaret, who was apparently the patron saint of childbirth. And,
oh wow!
Yeah.
So, but you say she's not pregnant, but she looks pregnant. Sorry.
No. Yeah, she does. She does, and that's. I mean, when I was in college,
barefoot.
When I was in college and I first saw this painting, I thought she was pregnant. But from what I've read, no, she wasn't. That part of the fashion of the day, and the way people were trained, and I think if somebody told me this when I first looked at it when I was in college, I would have laughed because they use the word girdle. To me, girdle is something totally different.
Yep. We all know that.
Yeah. Yeah. We live through that era. So
Barely.
Anytime, biblically, anytime you put like something around your waist, that's girdling yourself. So the young girls who are well trained and demure and socially conscious, they're told they didn't want their hands flying all over the place. Keep your hands close to you, down by your girdle, which just meant by your waist. And so that's where her hands are. And she's got this real voluminous garment on. And so, if you look down at the floor, you see that she's lifted it up quite a bit. So she's holding it in front of her. So it does make her look heavier in her lower stomach than normal. So it does gives that impression.
But you can see she's got more under there too. She's got the blue thing under.
Yeah, she bunched up the green part of the dress. She's bunching it up by, Yeah, so she bunches that up so she could kick her shoes off.
Well, that could be because the other thing about the shoes or the clogs is that there's a biblical reference to that when you come into the presence of God, like when Moses was at the burning bush, for instance, he was instructed to take his sandals off, I believe it was. So because he was on holy ground, and so that may be that effect that her shoes are over the side might be a reference to that.
There's something about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Well, because there's a term that was used years ago in Africa, way back when, and it's still an interesting term. It was like I'll kill
Mm.
you and eat your feet. It's just like when
Right.
people yell at each other. And it means that no, because you need your feet to go to
To
heaven
walk to
and
heaven.
to walk to heaven. And so
Ah,
if you don't have your feet, you're going to hell,
Yeah.
basically. You can't get to
Yeah.
heaven.
So I'm
This is
not
old
only am I
saying.
going, yeah, I'm not only am I going to kill you, I will make sure you don't go to heaven. How
Yeah.
about that?
that's
That is,
that could be a scary phrase, I guess.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we used to hear it in Africa for a while.
We've
Ah,
never said it to anybody ever.
yeah.
No, of course not.
No, no, I mean, that is, it's like, guys will do it if they're about to have a fist fight and be,
Mhm.
Yeah.
silly that way. But um, I find all these little things so interesting. But the
Very
mirror,
interesting.
the mirror is,
The mirror
I mean,
said,
yeah, the
yeah,
mirror, because it shows them at the back. It just kind of gives this whole other view of the room. And what I also find interesting, which is weird, is just even though when you look out the window behind him, it's like it's
Mhm.
an open window and it's like you can see, oh, this is their house had brick. Like you can see, I mean, just that to me is like you're now showing the architecture too of the time.
yeah,
Even
yeah.
the bed, you know,
But the bed
it's
is little. I mean, it's
Well,
short.
you see, they had not figured out mechanical perspective yet at this
Mm.
time. So he was trying to use a sort of I don't know, intuitive perspective, I'll call it. Because he noticed that things, go back and they angle and
Mhm.
get smaller as they go back, et cetera, et cetera. So,
Right.
but they had, mechanical perspective was not much in use. And really was more developed in Italy than it was in Flanders. But
mm,
Mm.
he does a good job. I mean, it's the tilt that there's a tilt to the perspective as it goes back. It goes up quite a bit.
Yeah, it goes
mm.
up.
You
But
know,
yeah, it's very interesting.
But yeah,
It's
and
so
the
detailed.
yeah,
Like
when you
when
look at the window and you
the
see the stained
light
glass, the light,
fixture.
how he did the stained glass, and you're talking about like doing temperature, like
Mhm.
doing that, and even just the wood,
yeah,
like in the doorway, it's like it's almost unfinished, but it's not. And then you've got your fruit, and then even the tree outside. I mean, look at that. When you zoom
Mhm.
in on this, you've got berries in the tree outside.
yep.
Now that could be a weird symbolical thing too.
Oh, see,
Yes.
I thought they were like oranges, like what's on the windowsill, like or
Yeah, but
apples.
then out on the
Huh?
outside, you can see outside through the brick
Yeah.
to like these little red cherry things, and cherries and witches go hand in hand, but maybe they didn't want to do
Well,
that.
no, fruit is usually symbolic of fertility,
Hmm. Yeah.
usually. And
So,
but one of the other aspects of interpretation that people have used, they're saying it has nothing to do with marriage at all. Nothing to
oh,
do. Nothing. Now, let's take this with a grain of salt because I don't think it's a very strong interpretation. But that the whole thing, the whole painting is a comment uh, on materialism, basically, and that
oh,
these are wealthy people and they're just showing off. I don't think
oh,
that. I think the other symbolism there counter that interpretation, but that
yeah, I don't,
some
yeah.
that has been written about. And one of the things that maybe mention it is the oranges, because they don't grow oranges in Flanders,
Mm.
so those
Mm,
have to be. There was imported food
mm.
Yeah.
Well, it's
from
Huh.
the
the hand,
Mediterranean.
her hand does have that bunching thing, and she's got like rings. And then when you just
Uh-huh.
even going up to her hair, look at her hair.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean,
it's all
that's some
braided.
like she's braided it, and like, and maybe she has servants to do it. And, I don't know if they had slaves, I don't know. But I remember we were at a plantation in Louisiana, the Kent House Plantation. And I mean, this was pretty historic because we were in an area of Louisiana that, it was before the Louisiana Purchase. And she was the lady taking us around, the interpreter, the docent of this museum was saying, you're in the living room, but there was like a fan. And she said, why, we have these other fan kind of things around the fireplace. like solid, was, and for women, because when they're sitting in the fire, then their face would melt because of the wax, and not just their face, but their hair. Wax
makeup.
was part of makeup at that in
Mhm.
that time frame. And when I'm looking at her, she looks waxed. Like, you know, she's obviously, look, she's got makeup, like, in a way. Look at her eyebrows have been tweezed. Did they I mean, when did we start tweezing our eyebrows? Like, that's a whole other rabbit hole.
I'm not sure, but she's probably about 14 years old,
I
Oh,
know, she's very young.
No.
I guess.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
I
d-
don't want to hear that.
He's
No,
probably in
she's
his
really young.
20s.
Yeah, she's really young.
Yeah.
And
She's got bags under her eyes. She's tired of it already.
And you notice, he's got fur trim on his coat.
collar.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they've got money. I think
And
they've got
Yeah.
money.
Having a dog would have been a luxury.
Mm-hmm.
Having the fruit. I mean, she is not dressed shabbily. So
No.
that, I mean, there are things that, of course, I mean, you have to expect if they're paying at that time probably a fairly good price to have their portrait done.
Mm-hmm.
Because Van Eyck was even well known in his lifetime. So he was in demand. So, and they were merchant class. They were merchant class people, and they were there because they had a business there. So I'm sure that
They have money.
you know,
They have
but
money.
that I still don't think that's the reason the painting was done.
But I mean, I mean, you got to think back then, are you sitting for the portrait? Did the artist take sketches?
Yes.
How is he doing this? Because the guys, I mean, how long are they standing there with,
I suspect they stood there maybe a couple of times, and he did sketches, and he also was incredibly observant and probably had it in his head, with the colors and so forth. And as far as the arrangement of like the dog, I mean, it's bad enough to think of people standing there for hours, but
The
the dog is
dog.
not going to stand there for hours. So he put all this stuff down very quickly, and went back to his studio and did the painting.
wow.
And it
I
probably
think
made,
she looks like a child bride.
yeah, and she
And
probably was.
yeah, so she looks like a very young bride. And they've already done the ceremony, and she's all like, "What's next?" And the guy's got the biggest hat on I've ever seen.
I don't know. He looks Quaker to me in a weird way.
But it's got a
It
really
looks-
big hat on.
But
But
Quakers would never have a portrait done of themselves like this.
no, not Quaker. No.
But you know what I mean?
Indifferent.
It just has that, because I don't know, maybe because he's so, I
It
don't
was
know.
probably that kind of hat was probably symbolic of a certain class of person, because like
Yeah.
painters wore berets,
Yeah.
Mhm.
for instance, and
So
they did
the-
that in France. They did it in the Low Countries. There were a lot of that time. There were a lot of guilds, which we've talked about guilds before,
Mhm.
being in the 17th century, but even earlier than that, you were sort of identified. Your profession was identified by how you were dressed, and
Mhm.
so he's probably trying to look as successful as he can, given
Mhm.
what at that time what people interpreted as success, or what stood for success.
I mean, maybe they had this painting done out of like, we're gonna go for it the fertility thing. I mean, because maybe the money, the business kind of thing. He's obviously they're not poor, but like maybe it's this thing of, maybe she just found out, like maybe she's not pregnant, like pregnant, like she just found out. Because I mean, I think it's interesting that it's in their bedroom and all these fertility things are around. So it's almost like they're hoping for a baby, and by
Yeah.
painting
Yeah.
could be they just got told, hey, she's preggers. That's so
No.
Nicely
classless,
said.
isn't it?
Yeah.
That's just so classless to say. But I mean,
Yeah.
really,
The
maybe
main-
they
the
just
main-
found
the main-
out.
Yeah, but the main reason people got married within their social group, or trying maybe even try to elevate, to another level, was to have a family, because at that time you had it was important that you had a family to pass your wealth on down to.
Mm,
Mm-hmm.
agreed.
I'm sure her, all this couple's parents were involved in their decision to get married, and
Mm-hmm.
and that grandchildren were what was expected.
Mm,
So in a way, some ways it's a painting that's done by Van Eyck, but in other ways it's almost a prayer. The things that are in there
yeah.
for them to have a good life, for them to have a family,
Yeah.
and for them to continue honoring what they believe in. So,
I
I mean,
I think also
It's interesting.
the
The
fertility
light,
part's huge, though. It's huge
but
because even when you go and look at like a lot of the the ancient times in like Nordic countries and like even Czechoslovakia, or I should say Czech Republic now, Ukraine, they do those fertility eggs over Easter and spring. So
uh-huh.
I wonder if this is because you think about oranges, right? Oranges, and this is, winter is when oranges are ready, and early spring is when the blossoms come on the orange tree, right? So I'm wondering, I don't know, maybe it's almost like it's spring, and like you're saying, the
fall.
painting is a prayer with wanting, because that's the orange season. Because think about
Yeah.
it, we weren't, I mean, imported fruit still, so it's still going between the winter and into spring, that it is this big fertility dance of and prayer, like putting it out there. This is really what we want and need, and having some money that they are able, because I just think because the bed is in there and all the other fertility things, that
Mhm.
she either found out she's pregnant, but how do you know without knowing? Maybe she's only partial like not part, that's weird, not partial
Partial
like
pregnant.
she's got her very first baby bump, right? But it's
Okay.
really small,
Mm.
and then like they just found out, so they're celebrating, or and it's to maybe praise and thank God, or they're praying and the painting is like a prayer painting. I mean, I mean,
Yeah,
art
but
is done in that way, and
but
they do
look
that
at
in those countries. They do that in folk art. They paint as form of prayer, and it's like the law of attraction in a
okay.
you know
Can we take
way.
it just for a second? Look at the light fixture.
Yeah,
Do
one
you
candle.
see there's only one candle lit?
Right.
Now,
One
I
candle,
find
from what I've read, one candle is typical of weddings in that part of the country.
Oh, okay,
And
so we're back to the wedding.
yeah,
I think
so
she's got a baby bump. I'm still, I understand the girdling and all that stuff, but I think that she's like just found out, or knows, like, okay, it's here. Because it's still I don't know.
interesting. It really is
But then you wouldn't want to
interesting.
do it if you wouldn't want people to know you're pregnant before being married at that time, right? That would be
No,
a no-no. That would be a no-no.
well, it happened. You know.
Oh,
But I just think the one lit candle it's got to have some meaning, because there's no candles anywhere else. Like,
right,
mm.
it's
right.
one thing where if you had candles where they belong and only one was lit, it's different than there are. So in a way, I almost feel like they're not that rich.
Uh, well, it's like, what's it? That's like, they couldn't afford any light bulbs,
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. So now I'm like,
yeah.
I don't
So
know.
I mean, I think, I don't think it's a monetary economy with one, but I
Mm.
think, but it is definitely symbolic.
Mhm.
Mm.
I'm not sure. I can't say for sure what the symbolism is, but
Yeah, interesting.
that's the
But
thing.
and
That's the thing
then
about
they,
we have all these different interpretations,
Mhm.
based on what we seen before, and what we feel about something, and people have been doing the same thing we're doing right now for 600
Yes.
years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there is
And-
other
and
people in that mirror. I mean,
and we're still doing it.
there's
And
other
That's
people.
just
So
They got fur lined. She's got fur lined house.
yeah, they
and-
both do.
and
At
around
gold
her
and
neck, they've got fur lined stuff, and so that sounds like they're wealthy.
they got
but
people
maybe-
in there. But that mirror, all the images around the mirror are kind of freaky, man. Look
well,
at that.
those are when
back
those
of
are
The
from the Passion of Christ.
crucifixion. Yeah.
Yeah, those were scenes from just prior to his crucifixion. So so obviously they come from a Christian background or a
Right.
biblical.
Definitely, yeah.
Um,
And then her hand, the way she holds her hand on his open, that's a sign of trust.
yeah,
Or,
Yes.
been kidnapped. But you know what I mean? What's the gargoyle? Check the gargoyle out. You guys see the gargoyle above her hand?
I'm not looking at the painting right now. So
Oh, okay, there's a gargoyle.
okay,
Oh no, that's not a gargoyle. That's
is
a
it?
carving on it's a carving on the chair behind them, or
oh,
Yeah,
is that
yeah.
that's Saint
Yeah, there's
Margaret? Is that
That's
Saint
Saint. No,
Yeah,
that
I-
can't be Saint Margaret.
Margaret?
now that's a
No,
carving. Can't
but
get
that's
in
not
quick
human,
enough
is
to
it? Well, it is human, but it doesn't look like a woman. Like,
um
ooh, I'm gonna get in trouble now. So I'll stop talking about it. I don't mean any harm. I'm just, but the dog looks happier and sweeter. I'm just saying. But I
that
don't. I
looks
find the
like
whole
a
thing
carved-
fascinating.
It looks like to the one side is their bed, and then where you're looking, Lisa, with the carving, looks like it could be a bed that would be for a child.
Oh yeah, yeah, like a
And then
bassinet.
so that could be like, yeah, so that could be, but could be, I don't know for sure, but
Oh, but it looks like
uh,
they have sunflowers out the window too. When you look in the mirror, that's where you get all the crazy stuff. Like there's sunflowers out there, so maybe it is fall. Yeah.
it's
Huh.
interesting. You could look at this for
Well,
hours.
when you look in a mirror, and then
Yeah.
you hold your mirror up to another mirror. I mean, you go back and it's like infinite space.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You your mirror shows a mirror shows a mirror shows a mirror shows a mirror, and they get tinier and tinier and tinier
Yeah.
as you go back. And of course, that convex mirror behind them is pretty small anyway. So you probably,
Yeah.
I think the concept of infinity with that mirror
Mm.
ties in with maybe like the omniscience of God, or the all-seeing eye of God, or whatever.
Wow.
Even though you can't, if it gets so tiny that you can't distinguish it, I think the implication is there.
It's like a fisheye lens.
Yeah.
The way it kind of does that, I just, even the rosary beads, when I look at it and how he did this, I mean, that's almost photographic, even the hair of the dog. And
Yeah.
I just, I'm amazed at this piece of work.
Yeah.
And it reminds us to look at paintings and really just take it all in, and everyone can have opinions, and that's the beauty of art. It's like, you can
Well, it
believe what you
certainly
want
sparks
and
a
take
discussion.
it does, and that's the thing. It's like poetry, you know. But it's amazing when you dig in when you zoom in versus looking at it like unzoomed in. I want to see it in person, but we have to go to London because it's in the National Gallery there.
Yeah.
So okay,
It is like when you look in the mirror, okay, it kind of looks like, I mean, she's wearing blue, and if you look in the mirror, you see blue. But if you're looking in the mirror, the two shapes outside of the blue seem that they would be the couple, because the white thing on the head on one side. So who's in the mirror? There's almost like a third person in there.
Mm.
You see what I'm saying? There's like it. hmm. We could do this for hours. And
Ooh,
then
yeah.
And then around the
If
mirror,
you want to really get into
yeah.
this mirror thing, this painting is almost always compared to a work of another painter, Velázquez, the Spanish painter who
Mm,
he was doing a picture of one of the royalty children, and her parents are peeking in, but there's a mirror, and
Wow.
back and forth and back and forth with these people looking at him from two different sides, and it's the same kind of deal. I don't know if any other artists ever attempted that besides these two, in the past anyway. It might be some contemporary artist. I don't know.
Wow. It's, if you go into the mirror and you really zoom in around the mirror at the top,
mhm.
there's circles around the mirror and
Yeah,
there's
the ones
pictures
with the
in there.
crucifixion in them.
Yeah, so there's so much. It's like, I don't know, you're never going to be done.
No, but I love paintings like this,
Yeah.
because it makes us think and go deeper. And no matter what, you're trying to trip into the artist's mind and their mind, and even if it's not the same people or the same wife, so I find it fascinating, and I think this is the power of art, man.
Yeah.
So everyone, again, you can see this up on blendradioandtv.com, Victoria's article. You can see the picture there. I would Google the picture so you can zoom in on it. There's a good one on Wikipedia. Go zoom in on it, so you can see the details that we're talking about, because you need to be able to zoom in and
Yeah.
really to see what we're talking about. And yeah, I'd say pour yourself a glass of wine and spend an
And,
hour looking at this painting.
peruse.
Or yeah, or maybe do whatever makes you happy and look at this painting. But
The
it's
dog's
kind of
cute.
it's the dog
Actually,
is
the
very
dog
cute.
is really well done. The
I
dog is
think
really
I
cute.
think the mouth is really trippy though, because it almost turns. It's like the hair is amazing, but then the mouth is almost going into like a cartoon dog in a weird way.
Oh,
I
he's
can't even
smiling.
explain it.
He's
Yeah,
he's
it's like
very
the dog
happy.
is like, "Come on, I want a baby here so I can play. I need a pal." You know what I mean? Oh wow, wow.
But
Anyway,
the
wow.
the gargoyle you're talking about above her hand, when you zoom in, if you scroll down a little bit and look to the right, there's another one down below.
Oh, dude.
I didn't
See?
notice before. By her green skirt, by
Oh boy.
there's
See
another
what?
one.
Ooh,
Ooh. Okay,
Victoria, what have you done to us?
oh gosh. Now this took
Well,
out another twist.
I
Oh,
know.
oh, and there's also another pair of shoes.
Yeah,
Oh,
there's two
well,
pairs of shoes. There's the
yeah,
orange
okay.
ones, and then there's the other like
Yeah,
white
so when you
ones.
go scroll up
There's
from the
slippers.
there's it looks like a lion, like the carving.
But
Oh, the other
isn't
one
there
looks
also
like a
about people washing each other's feet in religion too? That's a Catholic thing, isn't it? Yeah, that's
well,
Catholic.
yeah, because washing Jesus' feet. Yeah,
Hmm.
there's a lot
Oh,
of biblical references that way,
wow.
but
Well, Victoria,
okay.
you picked a good one.
Yeah,
There's
you
always a
did.
rabbit hole. I
I,
wonder what's going to happen next.
I'm glad you like it. I think it's a painting that we never
Oh,
get tired of looking at, never get tired of talking about, apparently, because people have been doing this for quite a long time. So
600
yeah.
years and multiple owners, and now it's
yeah,
in a museum, which I think is great. And that leads me to the next thing. The museum, how are things going? I know you're getting a new website, things happening. So
yeah.
hopefully maybe next time you come on, we can do a little bit more on it. But it seems that you've been really, really busy.
I've been really busy. Yes, I have. But it's really exciting for me to be doing, be a part of it. We've got a great board tomorrow. We are meeting with our guru in capital campaign, where our goal is to raise $1 million
Mhm.
and to complete this place to house all the things that people have given us and that I've collected and other people have collected, and want to share with the community. So
Oh,
this is a big undertaking. I think it's going to take us about 2 years to do this. But
Wow.
but you can go online. But in our website has some of our collection in it. It has what our plans are. It has shows you the beginnings of our library that's being cataloged, an art research library. Shows you some of the glass that is going to be at the museum. Anyway, in about 2 weeks, this website will be online, and I will let you know what the website the
Yeah.
address is. So
Yeah,
check it
right.
out.
I know it may change up, but everyone at this point, we have a page on it on nationalparktraveling.com. Just type in Silver City Art. Well, a whole bunch will come up with that. But it's on there, and it's Southwest Regional Museum of Art and Art Center. So you can Google that too, and also go to swrmart.org. How about that? I'm just doing that a whole different way.
Okay, now,
And that's
that's
going to change possibly.
yeah, it is definitely going to change. Yeah.
Okay.
So right now, don't bother.
Yeah.
Because
Well, we'll catch up with you next time on it, and
Yeah.
once it's up, so everyone knows where to go, and I know everything.
I need to tell you one more thing. If
Yeah.
they go to the site, because our original desire was to purchase the old Silver City post office for the
Right.
museum. And we didn't have enough money to do that initially. And so it's been vacant, but recently it was leased with an option to buy by a marijuana distributor. And
Oh, boy.
in Silver City right now, keep in mind, we've got less than 10,000 population. In
That's funny.
Silver City right now, we have 12 new marijuana distributorships.
No way.
Because
Wow.
because they're all from Colorado, and Colorado is running out of people who are interested in buying marijuana. And so about that same time, our state legislature passed a law that not just medical marijuana, but recreational marijuana was legal in our state. So all of a sudden, all these people came down here to New Mexico. And I think that there's 12 of them now, and they're going to shake out. Not everybody's going to be successful. And I think within
Right. Yeah.
a period of time, that's going to be like 3 or 4 that will actually, be making enough money to make it worth their while. So anyway, the old Silver City post office location, they're leasing that with an option to buy after 2 years. So they may be out of there in 2 years. They might not. So we are keeping our options open as for a location. We still may be able to take advantage of that location, but we're not. It is pictured in our earlier advertising. So I don't want to confuse people.
Right.
Yeah.
I want people to know that your new website is live.
Yeah.
And everyone, you can go to swrm-art.org.
Yeah.
It does come out, and from the old website does point right over to that. So even if you go to swrmart.org, it'll take you right there. It's in a work of progress, but you'll get an idea from even going there now. So it's cool. It's cool. It looks good.
That's a
nice and fresh
website.
It's very, it's exciting.
Well,
it's nice and fresh. Yeah.
Wait till you see the new website. If you think
that's what I'm on. It's there. People can see it.
No,
it's there.
No, you're not. Not yet. You're seeing the coming soon website.
Yeah. That's cool that people can go there and see.
Yeah.
I think it's exciting. I think Silver City really deserves to have this, and anybody smoking weed in Silver City and enjoying those 8 dispensaries, I encourage you to go look at the painting we've been talking about.
Exactly.
That's what I think. But really, Silver City, everyone, is such an amazing destination. It's an art community. It is, home to the Gila Cliff Dwellings National Monument, also the Gila Wilderness Area. I mean, recreation abounds, good food, and good people. So really, everyone, it's definitely a place to look at visiting. And when you talk about all this art, a museum only makes sense for the community itself, but also for visitors. So yeah, it really, it's high time Victoria
Yeah.
knew all this time. She did. And look at her. She's making it happen, and she has people on board helping, and you got a great team, and I think it's fantastic. So everyone, again, victoriachick.com, that's the website to go to keep up with Victoria. You can read her articles on Blend Radio and TV.com and in various Big Blend magazines. But Victoria, I hope you have a wonderful next month, and we'll chat with you in February and see what other rabbit hole
Okay,
we
thanks,
can
you
go
guys.
down. Thank you.
I've got,
I-
I'll have a new announcement next month.
Oh, we
Okay.
like that. We always
Cool.
like that. We
Okay,
might too. You never know.
yeah.
All
Yeah, you
right.
never know.
You
Yeah.
never know.
Do. Okay, take care.